So, divorce. It's never an easy process, and probably the last thing you want to think about when going through this painful process is your estate plan. But you really do need to think about revising your estate plan, and there's reasons for that. You might need to revise the beneficiaries to your retirement accounts or life insurance plan, or add or remove names to your wills and your trust. But the changes can go deeper than that. What happens to your previously shared bank accounts? Who do you want controlling all the assets in your trust? And you may have minor children or children with special needs, and you anticipate that you need extra planning for them. So let's take a deep dive into this. So to start with, I'm not a family law attorney. And what does that even mean, family law attorney? So this is somebody who works on prenups, who works on divorce, who has a special expertise in community property versus separate property. And that's not me. I specialize in estate planning, and I know enough about family law to be dangerous. But I am familiar with the estate planning steps you can take while you're going through a divorce. I actually think estate planning should be family law, right? Because really, we're planning for your family, but the family law attorneys got to that first. So if you have specific questions about your divorce, you should consult a family law attorney, somebody like Lydia Shu, who I interviewed in this other video that you should watch. Okay, so the first concept to understand is, what is community property and what is separate property? You know, not all states have that distinction, all right? So community property in California is anything you've earned during your marriage. And that is split 50-50, unless you have a prenup that says something otherwise, all right? Then you have separate property. And what is separate property? Well, that's when you receive something, whether you're married or you're not married, you receive something by gift or inheritance, or you bring something into the marriage that was already your separate property, okay? So why does this matter? Well, we'll see in a second. So let's say you have a joint revocable trust with your spouse, okay? And soon to be ex-spouse, and you don't want your half to go to your ex-spouse. How can we prevent that? Well, first we look at the terms of your joint trust. And what most trusts say is that you can actually revoke the trust as to your half of the community property and all of your separate property. And you usually need to provide notice to the family law attorneys that you are revoking this trust. They need to know that that's happening. Revoking is basically doing away with the trust. It's saying it's no longer valid. Then you can create a new separate property trust for yourself with all of the details that you want. But here's the problem. You can't move assets in and out of trusts and while you're going through a divorce. Well, why is that? So when somebody petitions for legal separation or petitions to end a marriage, there's something called ATROs, automatic temporary restraining orders. And basically that means all assets are frozen. You're not supposed to move them around. And really that was developed because, you know, some spouses might try to take some of their assets and move them to the Cayman Islands and hide them, right? So we want to avoid that, so you don't get to move assets. So you can set up your trust, but you can't actually fund the trust. You can't put stuff into the trust. So hold on. So you revoke your current trust, but then you have assets that are outside of the trust. Well, what happens if you die while the divorce is going on and your assets are not in a trust? You know, it could be subject to probate, and we definitely want to avoid that. So what do? So I create something called a general assignment. So this is where you say, I want all my assets to go into this trust. It's my intent that all of my assets go into this new trust, all right, including the assets that are subject to this divorce proceeding. And I usually even put the case number just to make sure everybody knows these are assets you want to go into the trust. And then if you do unfortunately die during the divorce proceedings, then we can bring a short court petition to move your assets into the trust. So they get into the new trust, they go to the family members that you want them to go to, and they don't go to the ex-spouse. This is actually called a Hegstead petition. And I talk about this petition in my video, What Happens If You Don't Fund Your Trust?
Hey everyone! If you like my mom's video, like and subscribe.
Also, I want to remind you to update your other estate planning documents, right? There's other documents that you do. You do your pour over will, which basically says everything goes into the trust. you do your new durable power of attorney, you can do those. Those are management documents. So the durable power of attorney is who signs managing your assets if you're incapacitated, if you're sick, all right? And also an advanced healthcare directive, you can do a new one. You don't have to name your soon-to-be ex-spouse to talk to the doctors if you're in a, God forbid, in a coma. So as long as you're not moving money around, you can do all of these things. And once the marital settlement agreement is finalized, that's when you can actually fund your trust. So once you have that list of schedules saying that you get these assets, your ex-spouse gets these other assets, and it's signed by the judge, that's when you can fund the trust. You can move assets into your revocable trust, your new one, and you can update the beneficiary designations to say, now my retirement accounts go here, my life insurance goes here. I want to really remind you, a lot of people forget to update those beneficiary designations. And I've actually seen situations where somebody doesn't update their life insurance policy, and the policy goes to their ex-spouse when they die, because that's who was named originally. And guess what happens? The insurance company, they don't know that you went through a divorce. They're just releasing the money to the person who received it. And do you think your ex-spouse is going to give that money back? Well, that's up to them, isn't it? And I do caution you that everything that you're funding really does have to follow the terms of the marital settlement agreement. All right, so the two have to match. Your revocable trust only holds the stuff that the marital settlement agreement says it holds. And some marital settlement agreements say that you need to fund other trusts, like a special needs trust. You need to fund it early. Or you need to buy a life insurance policy naming your ex-spouse specifically. So sometimes you will need to make sure that you do carry out those terms. So when you meet with an estate planning attorney, make sure that you provide a copy of the marital settlement agreement so the estate planning attorney can make sure that they don't do something against the terms of that agreement. Now, when you're creating your separate property trust, you may want to think about creating dynasty trusts for your children. So this is a way to inherit money, for your child to inherit money, and the money is protected from their spouse. So God forbid if your child ever goes through a divorce like you did, all of their money is segregated and it's held separately, so it's never subject to divorce. And then if you have a child with special needs, there's other considerations to think about. And I actually have a video specifically on special needs planning during and after a divorce, and I encourage you to watch that video. So divorce can be a messy and challenging process, but I do encourage you to take these steps to make sure that your family is set up for success. One family law attorney once told me that they're called family law attorneys because they create smaller families. And that's okay. You're entering into a new chapter in your life, but you want to make sure that your estate plan mirrors those. Now, I did describe some other documents that should be part of your estate plan, and I encourage you to watch my video about what an estate plan should contain, and I'll see you over there.
Hello everyone! If you liked my mom's video, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you all next time!